64. Chao Cuo's proposal to reduce vassal states' power. Like his father Emperor Wen, Emperor Jing of Han implemented policies of economic recovery and governance to strengthen the empire. During his time as crown prince, he had an intelligent advisor named Chao Cuo, whom people regarded as a strategic mastermind. After Emperor Jing ascended the throne, he promoted Chao Cuo to imperial counselor, Yu Shidafu. At the time, the Han dynasty operated under a dual administrative system. The central government controlled directly administered counties. 22 vassal states, ruled by kings of the Liu family, descendants of Emperor Gaozu, held substantial autonomy. By Emperor Jing's reign, these vassal states had grown powerful and wealthy. Qi Kingdom controlled over 70 cities. Wu Kingdom controlled over 50 cities. Chu Kingdom controlled over 40 cities. Many vassal kings ignored imperial authority, with the most arrogant being King Liu Bai of Wu. The Wu Kingdom, situated near the sea, had copper mines and salt production, making it as wealthy as the emperor himself. Liu Bai never visited Chang'an to pay respects to the emperor, essentially treating Wu as an independent kingdom. Chao Cuo's warning to the emperor. Chao Cuo, recognizing the growing threat, advised Emperor Jing. The king of Wu has repeatedly refused to pay tribute. According to the law, he should have been punished long ago. The late emperor, Emperor Wen, was lenient with him, but instead of gratitude, he has become even more arrogant. He secretly mines copper, mints his own coins, produces salt, and is recruiting soldiers, clearly preparing for rebellion. If we do not act now, his power will only continue to grow. It is better to reduce his territory now before he becomes an even greater threat. Emperor Jing hesitated. Wouldn't reducing their land provoke rebellion? Chao Cuo insisted, if they intend to rebel, they will do so whether or not we reduce their land. If we act now, they are still weak. But if we wait until they are stronger, the consequences will be far worse. Convinced, Emperor Jing approved the land reduction policy. The imperial court began confiscating territories from various vassal states, citing misrule and criminal activities. Opposition from Chao Cuo's own father. When Chao Cuo's father in Yingchuan, modern Yuxian, Henan, heard of his son's policy, he rushed to Chang'an and pleaded with him. You have already reached the high rank of imperial counselor. Why must you provoke the vassal kings? The kings are all close relatives of the emperor. What right do you have to interfere with their affairs? By taking away their lands, you are making them hate you. Have you considered the consequences? Chao Cuo replied firmly. If we do not act, the emperor will lose control of the country. The empire will descend into chaos. His father sighed, if you secure the empire for the Liu family, you will bring disaster upon the Chao family. I am old and do not wish to witness our family's ruin. Seeing that his son would not change his mind, he returned home and committed suicide by poisoning. The Rebellion of the Seven Kingdoms. As Chao Cuo and Emperor Jing were planning to reduce King Wu's land, King Wu preemptively rebelled. He rallied 6 other vassal kings, falsely claiming that they were rising to eliminate the treacherous minister Chao Cuo and protect the Liu family. In 154 BCE, the Seven Kingdoms, Wu, Chu, Zhao, Jiaoxi, Jiaodong, Sichuan, and Jinan, declared rebellion. This event became known as the Rebellion of the Seven Kingdoms. Emperor Jing's fatal mistake. The rebellion was widespread and powerful, frightening Emperor Jing. Recalling his father Emperor Wen's dying words, he appointed General Zhu Yafu as Grand Commandant, Taiwei, to lead 36 generals and suppress the rebellion. At court, Chao Cuo's enemies seized the opportunity. One minister falsely claimed. The Seven Kingdoms rebelled solely because of Chao Cuo's land reduction policies. If we meet their demands, execute Chao Cuo, forgive their crimes, and restore their lands, they will surrender. Emperor Jing, fearing for his throne, believed this argument and said, if executing one man can save the empire, why would I hesitate? A group of officials formally impeached Chao Cuo, falsely accusing him of treason and calling for his execution by waist slicing, Yaozhan. To protect his rule, Emperor Jing signed the death order. The tragic execution of Chao Cuo. One day, imperial guards arrived at Chao Cuo's residence, summoning him to a court meeting. Completely unaware of the plot against him, Chao Cuo dressed in formal attire and obediently followed them. As the carriage passed through the eastern market of Chang'an, the guards suddenly stopped. The lead official took out a decree and ordered Chao Cuo to step down and listen to the imperial edict. By order of Emperor Jing, the minister Chao Cuo has committed grave crimes and is sentenced to execution by waist slicing. Before Chao Cuo could react, a group of armed soldiers grabbed him and carried out the execution on the spot. Thus, Chao Cuo, the man who had worked tirelessly to strengthen the empire, was brutally killed, without even understanding why. The rebellion continues. After Chao Cuo's execution, Emperor Jing issued an edict to the rebels, asking them to withdraw. However, by this time, King Wu of Wu had already won multiple battles and seized large territories. When asked to kneel and accept the emperor's decree, he scoffed. "I am now an emperor myself. Why should I kneel before another?" Zhu Yafu's military genius. A Han official, Deng Gong, traveled to Chang'an to report the war's progress. Emperor Jing asked, "Chao Cuo is dead. Have Wu and Chu surrendered?" Deng Gong replied, "King Wu has been planning this rebellion for decades. He merely used the land reduction as an excuse. By executing Chao Cuo, Your Majesty has not stopped the rebellion, only discouraged future advisors from speaking honestly." Emperor Jing realized his mistake, but it was too late. Fortunately, General Zhu Yafu was a brilliant strategist. Instead of engaging in direct battle, he sent light cavalry to cut off the rebel supply lines, starving their troops. With no food, the rebel armies collapsed from within. Zhu Yafu then launched a decisive attack, crushing Wu and Chu forces completely. Once Wu and Chu were defeated, the remaining 5 rebel kingdoms quickly fell. In less than 3 months, Zhu Yafu annihilated the rebellion. Aftermath: strengthening central authority. Although Emperor Jing pardoned the descendants of the 7 kingdoms, he implemented a new policy. Vassal kings could only collect taxes within their own lands but were forbidden from interfering in government affairs. This greatly weakened the power of the vassals and strengthened the central government, ensuring Han dynasty stability for generations. 65. The Ma Yi ambush plan. During the reigns of Emperor Wen and Emperor Jing, the Han dynasty followed a policy of economic recovery and non-aggression. Over 60 years, apart from the brief rebellion of the 7 kingdoms, China saw no major wars. As a result, the economy flourished, and by the late years of Emperor Jing's reign, the empire's wealth had grown immensely. It was said that imperial treasuries contained so much money that the strings holding copper coins had rotted away. Grain stores were so full that surplus food had to be left in the open, where it sometimes rotted due to excess supply. This period of prosperity became known in history as the rule of Wen and Jing. However, despite the Han dynasty's growing strength, the Xiongnu continued to pose a major threat from the north. Since Emperor Gaozu was besieged at Baideng, the Han had followed a policy of marriage alliances, Heqin, with the Xiongnu. This policy required the Han to send royal princesses as brides to the Xiongnu Chanyu, chief, and offer annual gifts of silk, gold, and food. Despite these efforts, Xiongnu raids never stopped. Their warriors frequently attacked border towns, massacred civilians, and looted livestock and grain, making life in the northern frontier perpetually unstable. A new emperor and a new strategy. When Emperor Wu of Han, Liu Che, ascended the throne after Emperor Jing's death, he was an ambitious and determined ruler. He refused to accept Han's humiliating dependence on appeasement and sought to confront the Xiongnu militarily. In 135 BCE, the Xiongnu Chanyu Junchen once again sent envoys to demand another marriage alliance. Emperor Wu convened a court discussion. A general named Wang Hui boldly proposed, "The Xiongnu have never honored their treaties. They continuously raid our borders. Instead of appeasement, we should launch a military campaign to strike back." However, many officials opposed war, and Emperor Wu hesitated, feeling unprepared. For the moment, he agreed to another marriage alliance. The merchant's secret plan. 2 years later, a wealthy merchant from Ma Yi, Nai Yi, approached General Wang Hui with an audacious plan. "The Xiongnu are a constant menace. Since we've just secured peace with them, now is the perfect opportunity to lure them into a trap and ambush them for a decisive victory." Wang Hui asked, "How can we lure them into our territory?" Nai Yi replied, I am a well-known trader along the northern frontier, and the Xiongnu trust me. I will pretend to defect and offer the city of Ma Yi to the Qianyu as a gift. The Qianyu, tempted by Ma Yi's riches, will surely come. Meanwhile, we can set up an ambush, cut off their retreat, and capture the Qianyu. ****. Emperor Wu approved the plan. He ordered Wang Hui, Han Angua, Gong Sun He, and Li Guang to lead an army of 300,000 men and hide in the mountains and valleys near Ma Yi. Executing the plan, Na Yi pretended to flee to the Xiongnu and presented his plan to Qianyu Junchen. I can infiltrate Ma Yi and assassinate its officials. Once the city is defenseless, you can take it easily. The Qianyu was tempted but cautious. Instead of rushing in, he sent trusted scouts to accompany Na Yi to Ma Yi. He instructed them, "Only when I see proof that the city officials are dead will I mobilize my army." Following the plan, Na Yi executed several criminals who were already sentenced to death. He then displayed their severed heads on the city walls, claiming they belonged to Ma Yi's magistrates. The Xiongnu scouts believed the deception and rushed back to report to the Qianyu. Convinced, the Qianyu personally led 100,000 cavalry troops toward Ma Yi. The Qianyu's suspicion. As the Xiongnu army neared Ma Yi, they reached Wuzhou, modern-day Zhuiyun County, Shaanxi. Suddenly, the Qianyu noticed something strange. The grasslands were filled with livestock, but no herders were in sight. The villages were eerily silent. Something felt wrong. Feeling uneasy, the Qianyu ordered his men to capture a watchtower, Tingbao, to gather intelligence. The Xiongnu stormed the watchtower and seized the Han officer in charge. The Qianyu threatened him. "Tell me the truth. If you lie, I will kill you immediately." Terrified, the Han officer revealed the entire ambush plan. The Qianyu was horrified. He immediately ordered a full retreat. As soon as his army escaped Wuzhou, he sighed in relief. "If I hadn't captured that watchtower officer, we would have been wiped out. What a close call." The failed ambush. The 300,000 Han soldiers waiting at Ma Yi soon received news that the Xiongnu had retreated. Realizing that their trap had failed, they rushed in pursuit, but the Xiongnu cavalry were far too fast. The Han forces returned empty-handed. Consequences: the end of Heqin. Although the Ma Yi ambush failed, it shattered the illusion of peace between Han and the Xiongnu. From this moment forward, Emperor Wu abandoned the Heqin policy. Instead, he began preparations for a series of full-scale wars against the Xiongnu. This marked the beginning of decades of military campaigns that would eventually push the Xiongnu deep into the northern steppes and secure Han China's dominance over the frontier. 66. General Li Guang, the Flying General. In 129 BCE, the Xiongnu launched an invasion into Shanggu Commandery, modern-day Huailai, Hebei. In response, Emperor Wu of Han dispatched 4 generals, Wei Qing, Gong Sun Ao, Gong Sun He, and Li Guang, each leading an army to counter the attack. Among the 4, Li Guang was the most experienced and senior. He had been a general since the reign of Emperor Wen, and during Emperor Jing's rule, he played a crucial role alongside Zhu Yafu in suppressing the rebellion of the 7 kingdoms. Later, Emperor Jing appointed him administrator of Shangjuan, modern southeastern Yulin, Shaanxi, a key frontier region. Outnumbered, but not outmatched. During his tenure, Li Guang frequently engaged in skirmishes with the Xiongnu. On one occasion, while pursuing 3 Xiongnu archers, he and 100 cavalrymen chased them for dozens of miles before catching up. Li Guang shot down 2 enemies and captured the 3rd alive. As they were preparing to return to camp, they saw thousands of Xiongnu cavalry approaching from a distance. Seeing the overwhelming numbers, his soldiers panicked. Li Guang calmly addressed them. "We are still far from our main camp. If we flee now, the Xiongnu will overtake and slaughter us. Instead, we should stop here. They will assume we are baiting them into a trap and will hesitate to attack." He ordered his troops to halt just 2 miles from the enemy camp, dismount, and remove their saddles, appearing as if they were resting. His soldiers were alarmed, asking, "The Xiongnu greatly outnumber us. If they charge, what do we do?" Li Guang reassured them. "By remaining still, we will make them think this is a trap." As expected, the Xiongnu commander hesitated, suspecting an ambush. At that moment, a Xiongnu general on a white horse rode forward to inspect the situation. Seizing the opportunity, Li Guang and a dozen cavalrymen suddenly leaped onto their horses, galloped forward, and shot him dead with a single arrow. Then, he calmly returned to his men, dismounted, and lay down to rest again. The Xiongnu, even more suspicious, feared a night raid and retreated under cover of darkness. By dawn, the entire enemy force had vanished. Li Guang and his 100 men returned safely to camp. Ambushed and captured. Of the 4 Han armies, the Xiongnu identified Li Guang as the most dangerous. The Chanyu, Xiongnu leader, concentrated his forces at Yangmen to ambush him. The Han army was vastly outnumbered, and after fierce combat, Li Guang's forces were scattered, and he was wounded and captured. The Xiongnu, believing he was severely injured, placed him in a makeshift stretcher woven from ropes, strapped it between 2 horses, and began transporting him to the Chanyu's camp. Feigning unconsciousness, Li Guang waited for the right moment. After traveling about 10 miles, he suddenly sprang to life, grabbed a nearby soldier's horse, mounted it in one swift motion, seized a bow and arrows, and shoved the Xiongnu warrior off the horse. Turning south, he rode at full speed while firing arrows at his pursuers, killing several. The Xiongnu, unable to catch him, could only watch helplessly as he escaped. The price of defeat. Although Li Guang survived, his forces had been decimated. According to Han military law, a general who lost a battle faced the death penalty. However, convicts could pay a fine to atone for their crimes. Li Guang paid a sum of money, avoided execution, and was dismissed from the army, becoming a commoner. Return to the battlefield, the birth of the flying general. Before long, the Xiongnu resumed their raids, and Emperor Wu reinstated Li Guang as administrator of Yubaping Commandery, modern-day Lingyuan, Lianing. 4 decades, Li Guang defended the northern frontier. His lightning-fast movements and unmatched archery skills made him unpredictable and feared. The Xiongnu, unable to anticipate his movements, gave him the legendary nickname, the Flying General. With Li Guang stationed at Yubaping, the Xiongnu were so terrified that they avoided attacking the region entirely. Taming the tigers. Though the Xiongnu stayed away, Yubaping had a different kind of menace. Tigers frequently attacked villagers. Whenever reports of a tiger sighting came in, Li Guang personally went to hunt them down. He never missed. The legendary arrow. One evening, as Li Guang and his men were returning late, they cautiously watched for tigers in the fading twilight. Suddenly, in the dim light, he spotted a massive striped figure crouching in the grass at the foot of a hill. Without hesitation, he drew his bow and fired with full force. The arrow struck the target perfectly. His men, eager to retrieve the dead tiger, ran forward with spears and blades. However, as they reached the site, they froze in shock. There was no tiger. The arrow had embedded itself deep into a massive stone. Even when several men tried to pull it out, they couldn't budge it. The soldiers stared in awe, amazed at Li Guang's unparalleled strength. Curious, Li Guang retraced his steps and attempted several more shots at the same stone. This time, the arrows simply sparked against the rock, failing to penetrate. But that one arrow, which had pierced the stone, became the stuff of legend. The Flying General's arrows can pierce stone. A life of war and injustice. Throughout his life, Li Guang fought over 70 battles against the Xiongnu. His bravery and skill made him the Xiongnu's worst nightmare, but despite his achievements, he was never properly rewarded. Instead, 2 younger and newly promoted generals, Wei Qing and Hua Qubing, won the highest honors in Han's wars against the Xiongnu. Li Guang's life was marked by heroism, hardship, and missed opportunities, but his legend endured.